that Microsoft has announced and bought. It was a little bit of a rumor, first of all, from Bloomberg, Jason Schreier. And then all of a sudden, a couple of hours later, bang, yes, they showed the graphics that we have bought, this is Microsoft, ZeniMax Media, which is the parent company of Bethesda Softworks. the internet melted down a bit there, Nick.
It did, yeah. I'm surprised this news didn't get out. I was having so much fun reading forums. Like, there were so many people, so many good memes. It was fantastic watching this unfold. Really good fun. Big news as well, very big news. $7.5
billion. Yeah.
Which is actually, and this is the crazy thing, Star Wars cost less. It's unbelievable. I don't know.
So before we talk a bit more about that, then, how do you rate the Bethesda games? We got like the Elder Scrolls, Doom, Wolfenstein games, but there's also Dishonored, and there's a couple of new ones as well, which apparently will be still heading to PlayStation 5 because they've got to honor those agreements.
Yeah, there's the what's it called, Deathloop, I think is the big one, isn't it?
That's one of them. Yeah.
Exclusive.
Yeah.
To be honest, for me, like, I think the only real thing that I would be really, really keen to play would be the Elder Scrolls 6. Like, Fallout, I've played Fallout 4 for a few hours and it's not as good as 3. I would like to see Fallout 3 come to Switch, just port it across, that would be nice.
Like to see something like that. Never played it, so I would be interested.
Fallout 3 is really, really good, and New Vegas as well, which is Obsidian's one. Like, the other games don't really bother me. Like, I can live without Doom. I can live without Fallout. I can live without Wolfenstein. Like, I have Wolfenstein and Doom, but for me, they're not quite must-have games. I enjoy playing Doom, but it's not something I would miss if it disappeared. But ironically, I think this actually might be very good for Nintendo, because Bethesda supported them a little bit, didn't they? And it's kind of dried up a little bit now. We've not heard anything about Doom. I would also
possibly because of this news.
Possibly, yeah. I would also like to see some of the back catalogue stuff come out on the Switch, like Fallout 3, maybe like Morrowind and Oblivion, because I think I would be much more inclined to play a long RPG if I could use handheld mode. I have Skyrim on PC and on Switch, and I've definitely played it more on Switch, just because the option's there, isn't it, to play in handheld. Whereas at the PC, you have to sit down at the PC and you have to play, with a mouse and keyboard if you decide to play it. So I think this is going to be good for Nintendo, because I think Microsoft, as I said a little bit on the forum, I think they're obviously going for a service-based model. So they're going to have Game Pass on Xbox and they're going to have it on PC, and they're going to probably eventually achieve parity. So whatever you can play on Xbox, you can play on PC. It's not quite there yet, because stuff like Rare Replay is still not on PC. I think that's the long-term goal, to have the Xbox and the PC as sort of one platform, and you can, play. You can choose
how you want to play it and what you want to play it on.
Because that allows then other people who don't have an Xbox to get Game Pass, so they're getting that customer. Whether that'll come to Nintendo and Sony systems, I'm not sure.
You can possibly, I'm not too sure.
I think that's their aim. I do think that's what they want, but I don't think...
I could see it happening on Switch Pro.
It's more likely on Switch.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't think it's going to happen on PlayStation. Not at all.
I agree.
Unless Microsoft try to bully them and say, okay, well, if you don't let us, you can't have this game on your system. And then obviously, if there's some Fallout fans, Wolfenstein, Doom, Elder Scrolls fans who realise, actually, Elder Scrolls 6 is not coming to PS4. The only place you can play it is on PC or on Xbox. Then they're going to jump. Or at least they're going to pick it up on Xbox. Or PC. I don't... It's quite... I mean, obviously it's big news because it's such a big publisher. And I do think, and I said this on the forum, that I think, time's up as well for Konami's game division, probably not the whole company, but at least their IPs. I think someone's going to buy their IPs. I think Sega's time's up. I think Ubisoft maybe as well, Square Enix.
Microsoft did come out and say, no, we're not looking at Sega.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
Nintendo should look at
Yeah,
Sega.
they should. Come on.
But I think all this stuff's going to come to Switch. Whether it's in the same vein, I think they might sort of cherry pick a few titles like they've done with Ori and Minecraft and Cuphead. Titles that they know will attract a Switch audience who wouldn't necessarily sign up to Game Pass or buy an Xbox. I think those sorts of games we could see come to Switch if it doesn't take too much time and effort to port them, and they know they can make some good money on them. Because I'm sure Ori sold great, I'm sure Cuphead sold really great on the Switch.
Yeah, they wouldn't have released the second one if it didn't.
Yeah, so I think that's a good little money spinner for them, is having IP, especially that kind of IP, I think is going to be quite beneficial for Microsoft as a publisher in the future. But I do think we're going to see a shift towards acquisitions, as I said on the forum. And I do think look at Netflix and Amazon. They're always either releasing their own stuff or buying something exclusively. Like, everyone talks about Friends being on Netflix. And I do think it's going to kind of be the same. And if not now, but in a few years, I think gaming's going to go down the same path.
This could be the catalyst, actually.
It could be, yeah.
It's such a big purchase, and it's kind of... It's a wake-up call to Nintendo and
Sony,
other big publishers like Sony. It's a wake-up call going, ooh, what else are they after? What can we get before they get it?
I think...
It could...
I don't know. I think with Nintendo it'll be fine. Like, I don't think Nintendo are looking to buy anyone. I think it's probably more worrying for Sony than it is for Nintendo, because Nintendo still exists in this sort of separate space with a little bit of crossover.
Well, they've got their IPs.
Exactly.
They've got their history.
Yeah.
They've got so many IPs. They're making new IPs, and it's something that Sony and Microsoft don't have the history and depth of.
I think
Nintendo would be okay with that,
Yeah, I think Sony have strong IPs, but not as strong as Nintendo. I definitely think, there's a good chunk of people who will only buy PlayStation and are completely loyal to PlayStation, and not just a few, but many millions of people. Like Nintendo have as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, the IPs are definitely stronger for Nintendo. And, if Sony does decide to switch to this type of model where, £10 a month and you can play all our first-party games and some select third-party games, I think 70, 80 quid is going to push a lot of people away. I think all Nintendo needs to do, keep its head down, release games at 50, 60 quid. Don't fall for the subscription service model just yet. I mean, look at the sales. Look at the sales of Mario Kart, of Animal Crossing, of Breath of the Wild, Odyssey. It's 15 million plus. They're doing fine. They don't need to go down this road yet. And I'm sure when they do, eventually they're going to, they'll have like 30, 35, 40 million subscribers if it's the same price. And one difference with Nintendo, I don't think they would release or they would allow their games to run on non-proprietary hardware.
Oh, no.
I think it's all you have to buy the system for the games to run. But I think we're talking 10 plus years into the future. I think Nintendo, we know how far behind they are in this stuff. So they're only going to do it when they absolutely have to. But it is kind of interesting.
I'm just intrigued at what a proposition that Nintendo buying Sega or Konami and having Castlevania and all this. Konami would be a wonderful.
I think that would be great if they could, stump up the cash and they've got all of Sega's IPs, and then we might see them again, but developed by Nintendo-run teams. I mean, Sega still do a great job. I love lots of modern Sega games. I think it's one of my favourite companies, definitely. But the prospect of having them exclusive to Nintendo would be ironic in terms of history, but I think it would be a great move. And if I was going to pick up any, it would be Sega. Maybe Square Enix. But I think Ubisoft, Konami.
No.
Konami.
I always thought Ubisoft were too big for that, But,
yeah, what's happening with them now?
Yeah.
I think they could be had for quite cheap at the minute with all this stuff going on.
Difficult to get rid of that entrenched management there.
So I don't know, but it's interesting times, isn't it?
Certainly is. And I have nothing else to add, but then, Nick.
No.
Except the future is not as scary as people say. I think people are going, "Oh, there's going to end up with a monopoly." There's still three big companies.
Yeah, and I think, I said this on the forum, but I think it's definitely better that Bethesda went to Microsoft rather than Amazon or Google. They're trying to break in now with Stadia.
Oh, yeah, Amazon. What's
Luma.
Amazon called? Luma.
Oh, yeah. Luma or Luna, I can't remember.
Luna, one of them,
but, yeah. I don't want those. I think Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, they've got history. I know Microsoft's the newest one, but they still have a long history with games. Amazon and Google don't. And I don't think... I've not seen anything from either of those companies to suggest that they would do a better job than any of the big three. I think it's...
What it looks like for me, it just seems acquisition from them. Yeah. It seems...
Another way to make money.
Mm-hmm. I'm making money. And Nintendo is love of games.
That's true. And Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, they don't make games because they love making games. They make games to make money.
To make money, obviously,
but
yes.
there's that history, there's the talent, the proven talent in all three companies. Except maybe 343. I'm joking. But... yeah, I think I'm happy that they went to Microsoft rather than somewhere else, because if this is the way it's going to go in the future, which I think is very likely, then I would definitely prefer the big three companies to still be the main players. I'm sure there's room for another company to come from somewhere, but I would prefer to see it someone with more honest, let's say, intentions. I don't want Google trying to shove a streaming box down my throat and still expecting me to pay 60 quid for digital games. They need to do something better than that, I think. So, we'll see. But I think Nintendo don't need to worry about anything for at least 5 or 10 years. I think they'll be fine trucking along doing what they're doing now. Which is actually, after the Wii U, quite a surprising thing, isn't it, to say? Because with the Wii U, everyone was like, well, this could be the end. They're going to go third party. But they've dug themselves out.
See Mario on PlayStation 5.
They've dug themselves out pretty nicely.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give us a like if you've enjoyed our content. You can also check out our other great content on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and the N-E Café podcast from all good podcast providers. Just follow the links in the description below.